I get that this is a tough position for you.
Why 12 hours before this meeting, you still only have an idea? That don't make me feel good.
No, I know
I don't feel good about it.
And I had to go through my process.
Part of me wants to fake as though I'm surprised with who chose to stay dating. And the other part of me just thinks this was going to be the answer. If you look at the journey of all the couples, am I surprised that Kiara and Jay chose to stay together? No. I think they were the least toxic or the least problematic of the couples that were left in the final four. I think their issue with Sahara was just for storyline. Production didn't want us to know they were going to choose one another. And then with Tay and Cisco, that is going to need a lot of heavy lifting. I don't know whether Tay has it within her. And then Cam played himself. He really did. He played himself. He thought he was the smarter person. Part of me wants to think that he was blindsided. Another part of me wants to think that he and Sahara played it this way. That way they would save each other until the very end. And they knew that they were never going to stick together as a couple. That's the opinion that I get. But anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Ready to Love, Season 10, Episode 12. So we have Tommy. He throws a mixer for both the guys and the girls because there's only 8 of them left. They all come together. There's a lot of flirting. Cisco and Tay are constantly together. I think it took production to separate them at one point. They were sort of making up with the spaghetti. And I didn't quite understand that, but hey, to each their own. Tommy then arrives and reveals that last week the ladies met the guys' families. This week it's time for the girls to introduce their connections to the guy to their family, and so it was going to be interesting because with Hussein, he only had Angie left in the experiment. Cam still had 2 connections, which I don't quite get, given the fact that he was right at the very end. And Cam, I think, played the game. I think he used the girls as sort of a shield to stay in the competition because all of them would constantly be fighting that we need to save him. I don't think he was ever serious about any one of them, but I digress. Anyway, first up, we have Angie meet up with Hussein. What do I think? I get where Hussein is coming from. I think Hussein was kept by production on the show because the guy that they wanted to keep till the very end, they were not able to keep him because of his drinking problems. And I think so instead they kept Hussein, and Hussein had these 2 connections. The reason why he gave up on Rose to me doesn't make sense given the highlight from the reunion, but that's the story for another day. He met up with Angie because he was supposed to be meeting Angie and her brother and her sister-in-law, but he met up with Angie first and said to her, I don't think it's right for me to meet up with your family knowing that I'm not 100% for you. So I want to sort of withdraw myself. I'm self-eliminating. And kudos to him because it would have been embarrassing for him to meet her family and then get to this space. Or partly maybe he was intimidated by the fact that his family liked Angie, Cam's family liked Angie, and I think he didn't want to have to deal with the rejection on TV. And this is why he decided to reject her before she rejected him. Good for him. Tay met up with her aunt and her cousin, and they were going to meet Cisco. You had the cousin was firing questions at him left, right, and center. At one point, Cisco had to say to her, "No, I need to hear what your aunt has to say." And the aunt had a paper written down. Anyway, their questions were like, what are your intentions? What are your biggest barriers? He brought up, his financial situation and how that could be a hindrance for them. I love that the family were very supportive and were sort of trying to get Tay over the hurdle. It seems everybody's trying to get Tay to understand that just because he doesn't have money today, he might have money tomorrow. I want to see what his goals are. I want him to give me a 5-year plan. I just don't want to be led, into the dark. Because even when they met at the mixer, you had Tommy say to Tay, "Oh, you need to understand that when I met my wife, I didn't have anything. She had to buy me a car. She had to give me a roof over my head, and now she doesn't need to work for anything." And it's like, well, you had plans. Does this man have plans? They really seem to love him. There was a concern about the lifestyles, and it's like, what do you mean concern about the lifestyles? Are you telling me that Tay is always balling out and so she wants a big baller? If she does, she should have found him. She didn't need to come to the show. She's a very good looking girl. So I didn't quite understand whether that was for storyline or that was the truth. Angie met up with her brother, sister-in-law, and Cam. They sort of had conversations because they wanted to sort of get to know this man. The issue about the smashing of the windows and the conversation that took place after was brought up, and it's like, it's not that deep. It really is not that deep. At least she's forthcoming. At least her family is forthcoming. But I think with Angie, she's more rational and more reasonable than Sahara. So personally, I don't understand why he was constantly sort of pulling himself between the two girls and saying, I'm undecided. I have a feeling he was always going to drag these girls until one of them made a choice for him, or until production told him who to pick. Otherwise, I don't quite get it. Her family really loved Cam. They were worried about her temper and whether Cam would have the bandwidth to deal with that, because he had already raised his white flag to say, I don't like confrontation. I've already dealt with it before, so I don't think I'm in the best space to want to relive that sort of that terrible part of my history. And it's like, if you don't want that, why are you still with Sahara? Why, of all the girls in the experiment, did you choose the most toxic girls that you could find? Did you do it because you really like them, or did you do it so that you could stay on the show? I didn't quite get his intentions there. Kiara had her cousins. They met up with Jay. The cousins picked up that he was flirting. At one point, they had to say to him, the way you're looking at us and the way you're talking, it comes across as flirting. And it's like, oh my God, this man at his big age, does he always want to be the coolest guy in the class? Is he trying to overcompensate for something? I don't quite get it. They did ask him, are you ready for love? And they also brought up the incident at the retreat and how that sort of played out and the issues that came up as a result of him flirting with Sahara. And it's like, I don't think it was that deep. I really don't. I feel like it was brought in as a storyline because they seem to be doing very well, and production didn't want everyone to know that they were going to choose each other on the final day. The family said, what brought you two together? They said it was an instant attraction. And also, he was asked, they asked Jay, what's your belief on 50-50? And it's like, seriously, why make it seem as though you can't look after yourself? Let this man know that if he can't step up, then you will step up and look after yourself. You really don't need him to look after you. So I didn't quite get that question, and I didn't understand why we needed it. But the girl seemed impressed when he said, I like to look after my girl. I like her to be the female in my relationship because I'm fighting the whole world out there, and I want to come home to a delicate and soft space. And it's like, hey, if that's what you guys want. Sahara met up with Cam with her sister. The sister is just as trouble as she comes across as very confrontational, like Sahara, because Sahara was saying, oh, she's actually worse than me. And it's like, if Sahara is saying she's worse than her, I can only imagine. I feel like production really liked Sahara on day one, and this is why they decided to make her a pet project. So they gave her a second chance, and when she came in, they looked for a guy that was going to stand beside her, and that guy who agreed to stay as long as possible on the show was Cam, as long as he was coupled up with her. That's the impression that I get, because I really don't understand. Yes, there was a lot of flirting. The way he was sitting way closer to her than he was sitting to, Angie when he met up with her family. So I side-eyed that. You had Sahara constantly sort of badgering him at one point, saying he needs to make up his mind. You can't tell me that tomorrow is decision day and you still haven't made a decision. And it's like, it's not that deep. It was very frosty. And so it made me side-eye Cam, because he rejected somebody because he said he didn't like the response that they gave him, but was willing to put up with everything that Sahara and her sister were dishing him. And it makes me ask, did you stay in this experiment because you really loved this girl, or did you stay because you were told if you couple up with her, we'll keep you till the very end? That's the impression that I get. So the next day, you have Tommy introduce and sort of say, people get to meet up, because they were told that they would meet the family and then they would meet up with their partner and make a decision of whether they choose each other or not. And it's like, oh my God, it's going to be something else. First up, we have Jay and Kiara. He brought her flowers. They look like a corner shop flowers. He said it was love at first sight and it was always going to be her. So he said he was going to choose her. She chose him. Am I surprised? No. I think of all the couples that we've seen in this season, they are the least toxic. Yes, they had their issues with Sahara, but they seemed to be more compatible and more easygoing than everybody else. So I'm not surprised that they chose each other. Do I see them working? I think if they continue to do the work, and if he works on his flirty ways, they can be a successful couple. Next up was Cisco and Tay. Cisco and Tay, I think, were production's favorite because of the fact that they got to stand by the steps in Philly from the movie Rocky or something at this. So they got to stand by the steps. His flowers looked more expensive. He looked very well dressed in a tux. And so it was really cutesy cutesy. Tay, I think, likes the way this man looks. I think she likes the way he looks. And I think she likes the way he treats her. But I think her issue comes with the financial aspect, that there's no financial security. So she's having to weigh up, what do I do? Do I go for the person that I want with no money? Or do I look for the money that I want with the wrong person? She said he's loving, he's caring, he's supportive. They both chose one another. Surprised? No. Because I think they've been a couple for a long time that has stuck together, regardless of the fact that she turned away from him when she found out he didn't have money. And then she explored all the other guys and realized that they were never going to give her what he gave her. So she came back home. So do I see them working? Yeah. If they can come up with a plan, a business proposal of how to make him successful, they can actually work. And hopefully he doesn't leave her. They walked down the steps. They were very cute. And then we had Cam, so we had to wait for Cam to meet up with whoever was his final choice. So he chose Sahara. Am I surprised? No. I really don't. I'm not surprised. He said, I've chosen Sahara. I think emotionally and physically he was attracted to Angie because you could see the tension there every time he saw Angie. But I think the fact that she has a child is the reason why he didn't want her. And I think he was prepared to go with the person who didn't have the child. Or maybe he was prepared to stay with Sahara until the very end of the show. As soon as they met, Sahara took the gift and then she went in. Oh, why didn't you know that you're going to pick me? You didn't make me feel secure. You made me doubt myself. You didn't give me the reassurance that I needed. I should have known that you're going to choose me. I shouldn't have come into this not knowing what was going to be your final decision. And it's like, he is saying he was going through the process. You have to date multiple people until you find your person. So the audacity for her to be upset, I think it was an excuse. I think she was looking for an excuse to break up with him, and this was her moment, and she used that as a way to sort of find her way away from him and move on to whatever career she now gets, whether she's going to be an influencer or whatever she's going to be. Good luck to her. I think they wasted our time. That's just my opinion. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Click the link in my video to watch my review from episode 11. Bye guys.